Hi, this is Kim Williams, and I wanted to take a minute to talk about why HR has such a bad reputation and how they've earned it. I've heard millions of jokes over the years about HR, and I think that my favorite reference to HR is that we're neither human nor a resource. And I think it's understandable why people come to view HR that way. But there's three reasons why I think this has kind of ended up in the place that it has. One kind of goes back to an old saying that I actually heard first from a brilliant woman named Denise Conroy. And she stated that the fish always rots from the head. And what she meant by that is if you have a bad HR shop, you've got a bad CEO, because that's by design. HR doesn't hire HR, it's the top of the organization that not only sets the tone for what they will be like, but will individually set up who runs that shop, who will determine the direction of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And so a lot of times they're just the face of that particular problem or that problematic culture that exists for that organization. The other part, too, is that small organizations in particular don't look for professionals to run the shop. We see this all the time where the front desk receptionist kind of merged into the HR person because they were good at throwing birthday parties and they were detail oriented and managed paperwork, but they were never trained or equipped to deal with really intense, sensitive political conversations or power dynamics that get into abusive situations. And then last, we also see that the HR profession itself fails its own people. A lot of times when you look at organizations like SHRM, which has understandably and justifiably come under intense criticism for dropping off equity and then treating diversity as an openness to opinions that are incredibly harmful to individuals. But prior to any of that, they always had a reputation for focusing just on the rank and file. They came up with trainings for rank and file. But whenever something came from the top of the organization, from someone that HR might report to, they tend to be pretty silent. Now, for me, I rose up through the ranks of HR in the State Department and the federal government, where they actually train you intentionally on how to manage up. And then, fortunately for me, and I think best of all for me, is that they actually modeled it. There were plenty of times I worked with individuals who would call in ambassadors, who were calling people 5 pay grades above them to say, we need to have a conversation. We have a problem. You did X and you can't do that. You need to do Y. But at least there was some training, both through informal everyday observation and through more formal practices that helped me engage into difficult situations that literally, as someone described it, helped me fire a gun with no bullets in it in order to be able to advocate for myself and for others, which I have had to do many, many times throughout my career. So, not entirely to poo-poo on HR. I know there's a big, awful, dirty secret in this profession of folks who suffer in silence. A lot of times, if there's a bullying culture, HR gets the first and the worst of it. If you're feeling the impacts of it, oftentimes others have too. And if HR has tried to engage and it didn't go well, they're usually one of the first that are kind of getting punched down at. Is that an excuse? You tell me. Reply in the comments if you work in HR or have had a bad experience in HR. I'd love to hear what you think.